So today's topic was informed consent, which is where we ensure that our clients have a clear understanding of the counselor process, its boundaries, and their rights and responsibilities. We also explain to them that it is an ongoing relationship that will be revisited. I looked at the ACA informed consent, and it went on by saying counselors must obtain appropriate documentation of discussions of informed consent throughout the counseling relationship. We also must inform them of issues such as our purposes, our goals, techniques, benefits, qualifications, and credentials, experience, and our approach to counseling. We also need to inform them of the continuation of our services and what that entails, our role with technology. We also need to inform them of billing fees and collections plans when non-payment is issued. We also need to make sure they understand confidentiality and its limits, also that they can obtain their own records. And we also need to make sure that we arrange translators for multicultural clients to ensure comprehension of these procedures. Now, we also need to recognize the capacity of minors, the incapacity of adults on consent, and we need to include family and legal guardians to make decisions on their behalf. We also must discuss confidentiality limits to mandated clients and inform them of the consequences of their refusal. I then looked at the Alabama State Board, and it was basically the same. We must inform clients of the purposes, goals, and techniques and procedures. It also stated in a sentence that said that it is also mandatory not only for a written form, but we get constant verbal communication consent as well. So we also need to make sure they understand the implications of their diagnoses and the intended use of all of their tests and reports. I did the same about the fees and the billings. We also explain the right to their confidentiality. We also do explain the confidentiality limits and everything like that. As far as if they are going to harm themselves or another person or anything like that, we have to report that. A collaborative process throughout the relationship, again, we had to inform them of that. We also inform them they have a right to choose their own counselor, and they have a right, whether or not at any point in time, to continue. We also need to make sure that we recognize the inability to give consent, and we need to make decisions as their counselor and act in the best interest of our clients. So we also need to make sure that we balance the ethical rights of clients' choice, autonomy, capacity to give consent, parental and familial rights, legal obligations of the client's inability to give informed consent. We need to recognize all of that. I then went and looked at a consent form by a place called Samaritan Counseling, and it was it only had a slight bit of a difference. We must discuss the types of counselings and what issues they address. They must discuss the types of employees that they employ. You're allowed to ask your counselor about all of their credentials and their approach to counseling as well. That was in there. It also informed that they will have worse days often before better days because their process is about change and exploration. We also told them that the intake coordinator would be the one that would handle their billing and everything like that, and that they would sign separate forms on that. They also informed that their sessions are confidential unless revealed some type of child abuse, elder abuse, harm to themselves, or harms to others. Their results would be viewed only by consultations or supervisions or a care team. Also, I thought it was interesting, this was at the end of it, it said clinicians are permitted by law to reveal all of your records in court if they are being charged with civil or criminal charges to defend themselves against the charge or the complaint. So that was tacked on the end there. And then I read an article by the Journal of Law, Medicine, and Ethics. It was Capacity, Vulnerability, and Informed Consent for Research. And it emphasized the importance of the participant's ability to give this consent. Now, it's more of a legal document nowadays when it comes to research, and it's not a process, and it doesn't often provide robust two-way communication, and they often confuse comprehension for the capacity to actually say whether they want to do it or not. So if they comprehend it, then they automatically assume that they have the capacity to answer whether or not they're going to do it. And then also their capacity may fluctuate throughout the research program, and that is also not looked at. So I think it's important that we as counselors need to be able to measure the capacity of their ability to give consent.